before I put it on my camera.
Oh, that's perfect.
That's it. Perfect.
Oh my
Oh,
Perfect.
right. Oh, good God.
Perfect.
I'm having a glass of wine. I hope I don't start babbling, but I just thought I wanted to have a party with you guys tonight.
No.
Okay, I'm going to play the song that we're going to start with. Alison, do you want to call it in, the song you wanted us to play?
Yeah. This song is called Black Fella, White Fella, and it's by Warumpi Band, who I saw perform it at the Survivor Day protests in the late 90s. And let me tell you, George Rambu, who is the lead singer, had so much charisma. He was like an Aboriginal, like Bon Scott, when Bon Scott was alive, leader of AC/DC. He was just incredible. When he smiled, like the whole place lit up. And he just sang so brilliantly. And this was the spirit of Australia Day in the past that we loved. It doesn't matter what your colour, black fella, white fella, Aboriginal Australians and every Australian just celebrating together. And we had Aboriginal festivals at that time, but they weren't hostile. They were just about celebrating Aboriginal culture and music and acknowledging that, that they're really great and that they had injustices in the past, but we're all going to get on together. That's what it was about. Not this.
Okay, well, let's play it, and I'll put you in the background. Let's play it. We'll be back in a few minutes. Take care. Right. Here it is. White.
What you color, as long as you are true fella, as long as you are real fella. All the people of different races with different lives in different places. It doesn't matter what your name is. We got to have lots of changes. We need more brothers if we're to make it. We need more sisters if we're to save it. Are you the one who's gonna stand up and be counted? Are you the one who's gonna be there when we shout it? Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Black fella, white fella, yellow fella, any fella, it doesn't matter what you color, as long as you are true fella. All the people of different races, with different lives, in different places, it doesn't matter which religions, it's all the same where the ship is sinking. We need more brothers if we can make it. We need more sisters if we can save it. Are you the one who's gonna stand up and be counted? Are you the one who's gonna be there when we shout it? Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Stand up and be counted. Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan?
Now, we've got a special treat for you tonight. As you know, I think they're calling him Helmet Boy. Here he is here.
Citizen arrest. Okay, why do you fucking kill yourself, mate?
Whatever he else you want to say.
Why don't you? Yeah. I hope the white genocide does happen. Because you guys are cunts. Yeah.
Well, that's bad enough. We need to hear from him. Unfortunately for him, not only was he recorded by Rosemary Marshall, who is literally the queen of the freedom movement, as far as I'm concerned. She's one of the most powerful women in the freedom movement, and it's an awesome honor to have her on every night. I have her on, but the other one is joining the cafe tonight. Is a friend of mine. And I think she is probably the best independent journalist in Australia. She's far better than me. I am not even a journalist, really. She is incredible. I adore her mind. She's very controversial in some of the things she said, but and she's a joy to have on. So I'm very honored to have these two women on tonight. So let's go. First off, we got Rosemary Marshall, who's
Hello,
just
Michael.
a gift to the country, and Alison Beveridge. How you
G'day.
doing? And look how you look now. Before you were all blurry and this and lights everywhere, and now here you are. You're just perfect. So
I like the
I'm going to.
backdrop. The flag, it's lovely.
That's the flag that he ripped up. He ripped. You want to see?
He
Okay.
tore it.
Now, should we start and just get Helmet Boy out of the way? So, unfortunately for him, he didn't realize who he was abusing. But just who wants to start? Well, Alison, you've never been on before. Why don't you start us and what happened that day? Why you were there in the first place?
We wanted to have a picnic. We did the same last year, had a picnic to celebrate the colonial history, because I feel like that's being deliberately cut out of Australia Day and demonised. So I just wanted to celebrate the good stories of the pioneers, because, I mean, they did a remarkable job despite obvious flaws, but they really had a tough time, and there's some wild stories. So I got dressed up in my colonial best as a colonial lady and planted my flags at Captain Cook's statue, and we just got our food out, got our picnic rug out, and I think we just were playing music and talking, and basically Helmet Boy at that point, one of my flags had kept falling over, so I taped it to one of the posts with gaffer tape, and he came past and tried to rip it off, and then on his bike sort of went off down the way a bit, and Rosie sort of chased after him, and he started yelling at us. And
let's start there. Let's
well,
move to Rosemary. Rosemary, you started chasing him after the flag.
No, actually, I didn't chase him. No, what happened was, I mean, this was several hours after. I mean, this would have been well after the actual march, wasn't it? They'd all gone by the time this.
Yeah, they'd all gone.
There was no one around except for a very sweet Chinese family of tourists with the most adorable little girls who we made friends with. And my recollection is I was under the trees at the far end of the park, well away from Captain Cook, and just in the shade with my husband and a couple of other people, and the little Chinese girls. And I think the parents had joined. No, they hadn't joined us by that time, but the little girls were around and playing with the flags and putting the flag up and all that sort of stuff. And there was a kerfuffle where he pulled a flag out. And Dana, who I had only met that day, I was just saying before, she was like a bloodhound out of the blocks. She shot across the park. And I think she actually pushed him over, but I thought, gosh, if he was on his bike, she would have knocked him off and probably hurt him. But I mean, as it happened, she just took the flag.
We have
back.
video footage of that, to be honest.
And then there was all that starting, and you joined. You spoke to him.
I hope the white genocide does.
No,
Well, there were two incidents. That's the second one. The first one, he came up behind us and got my flag off that pole, and that's when he told you that you're a CUNT and white genocide. And then the second time, he got the flag near Captain Cook that was in the grass near Captain Cook, and that's when Dana went off like a shot and grabbed the flag off him, and he ripped the flag. So that was his second. Oh, he came back.
Right.
He came back.
So he's attacking women. I hate to say it.
He did.
He's attacking women, different races. It's not just white people. We've got an Asian with Dana. I think she's Vietnamese or something. And you've got a Chinese family there. and you two dressed up as, and you, Alison, dressed up as a colonial,
Yeah,
and we've got him on his expensive electric bike with his haute couture helmet, and
And we had an Indian couple with us as well, friends of ours. Another couple, yes, Indian. And I mean, we really were having a very pleasant time. It was very quiet in the park. There was no one around. And we were minding our own business and just kind of sharing lunch with the Chinese parents. And, or did that happen afterwards? I mean, I didn't have any wine on that occasion.
Yeah, that was after.
But I think they were, I reckon they were a bit upset by the whole thing. You know, it was quite shocking, actually, I thoued.
Alison, do you want to take over?
Yeah. When he broke my flag, I'm going to show you. He broke. I had him on bamboo stakes, and they were tied up nicely. He actually snapped the bamboo stake off, but I repaired it with gaffer tape. I just stuck the flag back on and stuck it back up. And with the broken bit of flag, I made a flag with my bandana that was also an Aussie flag bandana, and just gaffer taped it and gaffer taped up the bit that was spiky and gave it to the little Chinese girl, and she loved it. Oh, she was running around waving her flag, and we were cavorting around and having just the best time. So that's what happened in the end. But what I think is important to remember about this guy is that he is just a product of what he's been told. He's just a young fellow. Yes. He doesn't know. He doesn't realise. He was basically angry about Aboriginal deaths in custody, and the reason he's so angry is he only ever gets told one side of the story. Like he thinks of it like evil white devils are murdering Aboriginal people in prison, but he's never, because when news reports, they don't want to punch down. They feel uncomfortable about reporting the reason why there is an overrepresentation of Aboriginal men in prison is because they've been largely incarcerated for violent crime. And unfortunately, the statistics show that. And obviously, there's a whole load of social reasons behind that. But the reason why there's a large number of Aboriginal deaths in custody is because there's a large number of Aboriginal men in prison. And the reason for that is they've committed a large number of violent crimes, usually against Aboriginal women and children. But he doesn't realise that. He just thinks we're all genociding Aboriginal people. And so he's just a young fella. He unfortunately thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks he's Winston Churchill and that we're all racist Nazis, and that's what he thinks. And our history has been so demonised from years of bad education and bad arts funding that encourages the worst possible, most ungenerous retelling of history. Only the bad side of colonialism is ever discussed, and only the best part of Aboriginal culture is ever discussed. And so when you get that disparity, this is the result. So I don't think we need to punish him, and especially big point to make. I just make one big point. We do not need censorship, hate speech laws to deal with Herbie words. Do you know what I mean? I shouted back at him and told him to get lost. That's all that needs to be done.
No, you did not say that. You said you go out into the country then naked and carve a culture out of a rock. I
think you've heard Rosie's recording, which was only part of it. I've put my full recording at the bottom of my Substack if you want to hear. I ran up and the first thing I said is, you don't understand that Australia Day is about Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people together celebrating Australia Day. And I go, and it's not even stolen land, because effectively it was a trade. It was effectively a trade, like not a formal trade, but effectively a trade. Some land for the built environment and modernity, because there was no built environment here before. There wasn't. So that's what effectively happened. And so that's when I shouted that. And if he thinks it's all stolen, well, be my guest. Run back into the scrub and, like the colonial settlers, go and hack out a country and city out of rock with no power tools, no air conditioning, no nothing, because they really, for all their faults, they did quite an amazing thing. I mean, have you ever seen how hard it is just to set up a tent in the bush? It's sometimes very difficult. So, and that's
and
I just go to Rosemary for a sec, Alison. Rosemary, I just want to get this out of the way, because it's kept me smiling all day. Tell me about what he called you and what actually offended you.
Well, I wasn't offended by anything he said to me. I mean, I've had those things said to me at the forest on various occasions, but it was the report.
Oh, well, you told me that he called
Yeah.
you an old cunt, and how dare he call you
Oh,
old?
no, I was an effing cunt, but I was described in all the social media as an elderly couple. So I was rather offended by that. But look, I did want to say about this young man, my opinion of him was that he was a rather foolish 20-year-old, possibly, who was flexing his male muscles, wanting to poke someone in the eye and feel like a big
Elderly
man.
women.
And so we were just the sitting ducks, and he didn't realise that he was actually lighting a fuse of a pair of absolute Exocet missiles. And listening to the people marching prior, when we parked the car, I heard the rabble. Honestly, what a motley lot of people they were. There were a couple of Aboriginal families, but they were most middle class millennials and boomers. And without trying to sound rude, they did seem to have an overrepresentation of people with blue hair who appeared to be lesbians because they were holding hands. And the other thing was the teachers all had uniform flags about being the teachers' union, and amid them all they were chanting, "March for Australia, you can't hide, you've got Nazis on your side." So it was really, I thought it was just embarrassing. So he's been taught by those people. So I wonder he's scrambled.
The thing about Nazis, I'm telling you, if Hitler had known that there was this many Nazis in Australia, he wouldn't have killed himself. He would have emigrated. He'd be here now, And so, just going back to you, Alison, though, and then to Rosemary. Now it's gone uber viral. I mean, Elon Musk has shared it. That English guy, Tommy Robertson. I mean, it's just everywhere. Every time I go on, it's just there it is. Why do you think it's gone so viral?
I think it has gone so viral because the algorithms are pushing it into people's feeds, and I think they're doing that because they're trying to sell censorship to the right. And they know that the right is the ones that hated and pushed off the censorship laws when it was the misinformation and disinformation bill, and they've just passed that hideous hate speech bill, and I think they're trying to sell that to us. Because everything that happens on the internet, it's never really 100% organic. I like Tommy Robinson. I never thought he's a racist. I think he's a very brave man who told the truth about the Islamist problems in his country and got badly punished for it. And how amazing Elon Musk saw it. But I think the algorithms, these social media firms control the algorithms, and they're able to control the narrative on issues that they want to control it on. And I think they want to sell these stupid censorship hate speech laws, which we do not need. We don't need any of this shit. Do you broke the flag? If I wanted to punish that guy, I would have gone to the police and said, property damage, he broke my flag, and he would be charged. And you'll notice in the news stories it always says police have not recorded any complaints. And that's because I will not go to police and record a charge. We don't need to be dragging people through the courts for this bullshit. We don't need censorship laws. He said some hurty words, big deal. I shouted back at him, big deal. Let's all get on with it. And I think he's been punished enough. He's just a young guy. His face is everywhere. He's been thoroughly embarrassed.
I agree.
Do not dig his face out. His name out. Do not dig his identity out and put it anywhere because he's got a life to lead.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Can I go to Rosemary? Why do you think, Rosemary, it's gone viral? I have another take, but I want to hear your take. Why do you think it's gone so viral? Apart from the fact that when it comes to virability, you got the golden touch, girl. You are like the golden goose.
No one's more surprised than me. Well, funny enough, nothing's funny about any of it really, but some of it's a bit funny. But I did an interview with this guy in New York called Jeremiah Hosier, who runs the spaces on Stop the Shot on X. And if anyone's interested in getting on there, you actually meet some amazing people. I've spoken with some of the really high-flying people in the movement through these X spaces, and I strongly recommend Stop the Shots. Anyway, he was interviewing me, and he's trying to get his podcast called The Baseline on YouTube off the ground. So what I did was I went through all my interviews in my computer, and I posted them all on my X page. And there, as you would know, there are heaps and heaps of them. And suddenly my following went up by hundreds and hundreds of people. And it coincided, this only happened 2 weeks ago. So suddenly I had a whole lot more people following me. And then this happened. So I had a ready waiting market that hadn't been there before. And of course, when I go onto X Spaces, they're saying, well, what's happening in Australia? And I've spoken on a couple of spaces since and got more followers because they'd seen what had happened. But I don't often look at the troll pages, but I couldn't resist having a look at a couple of them. And one of them, my eponymous page, which I won't advertise because they're crazy people, but one that's partially named after me had the video and was obviously saying, the old biddy, the old bat's on again. Anyway, they think that might offend me, but little do they know what I'm like. I couldn't care less. And even my sons who are in London said, oh, our friends are reposting your tweets. I thought, oh dear, this is going to get interesting. But they're very much behind me. Anyway, on the eponymous page, which I'm sure you can find, she had to take it down because everyone was supporting me.
Wow.
So make of that what you like.
I just want to think that these hate speech laws are coming in. There was a young man who got up at an open mic and did a speech where he accused Jews of being the enemy of the land, and he's been arrested and he's still in jail. That happened on the same day as this attack on you guys, and I think the country is seeing a disparity between how this is going to happen. Basically, it's I don't think it makes it's everyone is equal, but some are more equal than others. That's how I see everyone is seeing this. It's a landmark video where people are going, well, the left can be as rude as they want to us and as violent as they want to us. There was another young guy stabbed in Melbourne for carrying a flag through the same group. And I don't hear anything happening there. In fact, the Melbourne police are doing a manhunt for some jogger who called a couple of guys poofters, and they're searching for him like it's a manhunt, with these hurdy words, and they're leaving that alone. And this is how they see the future going. Basically, some people it's like having a parent who, I love this kid could do no wrong. And Alison, haven't you taken out the rubbish yet? You know what I mean? And don't you look at me with that tone of voice. It's sort of, this is what Australians are fearing. And I think that's why it's going so viral around the world. People are seeing this. That's my take on it. The algorithms might be helping, but the everyday ordinary people, and in the comments you see, they're seeing it as a two-tier justice. And that's what these laws are doing.
I think that's what it is. I mean, as you know, Michael, when you rang me last night to talk about it, I was of the mindset that I would like to draw a line under it and concentrate on the forest, which we're doing on Saturday again. Not kind of, I was more concerned that this young man would be wearing a very unfortunate label for the rest of his life. And I believe it had been reported to the police because someone who was covered in all those bits of plastic, the black ninja suit, he came up to us and said the police had been called. And I just said, oh, well, if they come and talk to us, I won't play it down, but I'll just say, look, we weren't hurt and I'm not offended. But when we talked further and you clarified in my mind that this is about something much more than that, the hate speech laws are so inappropriate. And, as far as the Forest of the Fallen is concerned, I mean, I can see the day when they keep pushing all these vaccinations, and we're not taking any notice of what's happened in America, where the Hep B one's not recommended at birth. Everyone's still jabbing these precious newborn children. I can see there could easily be a time where if I stand up and say all the things I do say, they could categorically describe that as bad for the community, and on those terms, it's potentially hate speech. So that's
they could call the entire freedom movement a hate group and go there. But I'd actually, and then it doesn't matter. Can I ask Alison, as a reporter, and you're a sensational reporter, I read your Substack thing. I love it. I've shared it. I was just anyway. How do you take these hate speech laws? Even the fact that they raced it through, meaning none of the politicians read it or read it in a way that they could comprehend what was in it. And now it's here and going to the Senate. What are your thoughts?
This is obviously coming from a supranational level, above the level of nation state, because it's not just us. It's happening in Canada, the EU, Britain, everywhere around the Anglosphere. So, and they're desperate to push these laws through because they tried with the misinformation and disinformation bill, and we fought that off. We got everybody went into their senators' offices and rang them, emailed them, and made it clear to them that we would vote them out of office and remember them and campaign against them at the next election if they dared to put that through, and they voted it down. So now we've got these hate speech laws rushed through on a pretext. I mean, they used Bondi shooting as a pretext, but that's not the reason. They were already cooking up those hate speech laws and trying to get them passed before. And so obviously it's something that they really, really want. And if you ask me why I think they want that, well, I always say the same thing. Like, I mean, that obviously the political elites always love to control the narrative, but if it's so urgent, and look, it's everyone, they must be gearing up for war. I think they're going to go into Iran. I think they're going to go into Iran this year. But I wanted to tell you something else that's actually really burning me, and it's a big danger, and it goes to what you asked Rosie and what Rosie said about why there was this differential two-tiered policing, why that Nazi was arrested but the white genocide guy is not arrested. That's because there's now a false assumption being built into our security services by endless lobbying from the Red-Green Alliance, you know, the alliance between left and Islam. That's both of them are globalist movements, and both of them hate nationalists, and both of them want to destroy our nation. So they've been lobbying at every parliamentary inquiry, et cetera, to ask the government to redirect the security services focus away from Islam, because Islam's not the real threat. The far right is the real threat. So if you go back, and I have done, in 2019, the head of ASIO was out there going, oh, we're really worried about the far right. Well, in 2019, ASIO, one of the Bondi shooters, was brought to the attention of ASIO for his following of Islamic State. And meanwhile, they just dropped him as being not a threat. And so his father was allowed to keep his gun license. Bondi wouldn't have happened if they'd been paying extra attention to Islam and less attention to the far right. But they have now a distorted perception of the far right, and this is helped by those fake Nazis that are trotted out now on Australia Day, and they're into March for Australia rallies, and they take over the open mic. And even though the people there are ordinary people, they turn their backs on them and they say, go away. It's so easy for them to run in and just run in front of the cameras and make a big fuss. So then what happens is the Red-Green Alliance political operatives and their friends in the media then only put photos of those guys in the media and taint the rest of that. So they give a distorted perception, plus all their submissions and their lobbying to the parliaments. They're giving the distorted impression to the people who are in the parliaments and in the security services that the real threat is the far right, and not don't worry, you're just being racist when it is Islam. And there's something very important to tell you, which is this. The New South Wales Parliament is right now having an inquiry into the dangers of the far right. And submissions close on February 3. So if you live in New South Wales, just Google parliamentary inquiry far right and go and look at the landing page and make a submission, because what they're doing is trying to criminalise basically March for Australia. They're trying to turn security services away from Islam, who is the friend of the Red-Green Alliance, and onto ordinary Australians at March for Australia, and characterise them all as Nazis. And it's a very sinister what is going on. I feel like I haven't ever seen such obvious political operations since, forever, basically. It's quite sinister.
It is.
Yeah, it is really sinister, and that's how I think it'll go, where they'll designate all of the freedom movement as a hate group. And then if anyone of us says anything that anyone anywhere finds upsetting, then we will be getting arrested. I believe that is the way it's going, unless something changes. But do you think, and this, I'll just go with Alison one more time because we don't have Ron much, and then go to Rosemary. Do you think the reason they're also bringing them in, and Albo just keeps going about the far right, even though we're watching two Muslim men shoot up Bondi and shooting Jews on Bondi, do you think the reason they're doing that is because they know they're losing? All their lies are being exposed, from net zero to the effectiveness of the jab and all these other things. Everything is suddenly being seen as lies, and they realize that people are waking up everywhere, and this is a way to try and frighten people back into silence. Because we've got podcasters now who don't want to podcast because they're frightened they're going to get arrested. So basically people are defaulting to silence because They just don't want to get arrested, and they don't know what it is they will say that will get them arrested. So they're just, and that's why the laws are vague. Do you think I'm right there?
I don't know. I'm in two minds about it. I'd like to be positive and say yes. I mean, why would they have to sell this hate speech censorship law to us if what we thought and acted, how we acted, didn't matter? So they obviously want to sell these things to us, and so it means that we'd have some agency. But then again, my pessimistic side says maybe they're just doing it because they don't need to worry anymore, because now they've got so much, they've passed so much legislation that basically they're in control and we don't have any way to fight back, so they can't be bothered pretending anymore. Like net zero, they're dumping that because they don't need it anymore. They've realised that they need the energy for their data centres and the AI, so they're dropping. That's it. We're dropping.
Yeah, that's it. That's what Bill Gates said. Oh, if climate change isn't a problem for the foreseeable future because there's no money in it. There's more money in AI, and there's more money in nuclear reactors and stuff like that. Yeah, 100%. How about you, Rosemary? Why do you think they're so determined to bring in these hate speech laws, of which you will be a target? I hate to say it. This wonderful gift to the country, and yet they will be looking to demonize you.
Well, I've done a lot of thinking about people's resistance to looking at the big picture, and we see it with people who've been vaccine injured and won't accept that that's come from a vaccine. I see it with the parents who doggedly take their darling children off to be jabbed with something that, you know, that they know that it might cause a problem. But I think a lot of the resistance to looking at the whole scenario and everything that Alison has so perfectly pointed out, which I think is exactly where we are going, I think it's because people can't bear to think that they're alone in the government and all the agencies and the doctors and everyone are evil. They can't bear to think it. So they resist and they cling to Albo being a good guy and all those lunatics he's got along his side of being good people. It almost doesn't matter what they say. I mean, listening to Jacinda Allen talking about being, what was it she said? It was very discomfortable or something the other day. And I just thought, well, she's typical of the education. She can't string a sentence together. It really is woeful. But everyone just thinks, oh, well, they know better than us, and we just have to hope they're going to look after us. I mean, it's quite pathetic, really. I mean, once you get with the agenda and you see what a bunch of bozos they are, you kind of feel certainly not sorry for them. I could line them all up and shoot them. Oh, I'll be gagged now. That'll be it. But I just really think once you see the whole picture, you can stand back and think, right, I'm fending for myself. I'm looking into everything. I make my own decisions, and I won't fall for any of this nonsense anymore. But, you know, I had a conversation with someone the other day. Actually, it was at the forest. And he was saying to me, oh, well, look, they did the right thing with the injections. And I said, do you remember you were lied to? And he said, oh, they never lied to me. And I said, but didn't they say that it would stop transmission? They never said that. I said, oh, come on. Didn't they say that you weren't going to catch it? Now everyone's got it. Oh, no, they never said that. And I just thought.
Yes, they did.
This is just the problem. They have an inability to believe that we are run by a hostile force of imbeciles, basically.
I just want to answer this question. I just want to address here too. JJRM8, they're not fake Nazis, they're real Nazis. Mate, they just disbanded as soon as the hate speech laws came in. And I'm sorry, but I think real Nazis would have not bothered by hate speech laws because they would have been committed to the vision that they were pursuing. So they would have kept going. So, yeah, mate, they are fake Nazis because they just disbanded. What I feel sorry for is Joel, because Joel's a political prisoner. He's still in jail. He did a Telegram post, but he's never done any crimes as far as I know, and he has a difference of opinion to a lot of the rest of the country. That is not a reason to stay in jail. And the hate speech laws went in, so I don't understand why they're keeping him in, but they're putting him through a terrible time. That he's in isolation. This is unacceptable. We've got another one in Adelaide called Raina. She's a mother who lost her baby at 2 years old to a vaccine injury. She's got 4 kids, and her husband was killed in a car accident only a few years ago. And she's been a very powerful freedom fighter in Adelaide, very outspoken about vaccines. And she got in some scuffle in a bar and police were called. As far as we know, the police officer who was manhandling her, a woman, it's a woman handling her, had alopecia. So apparently she pulled out her hair, and we thought this is why she's in jail for 4 years for pulling out her hair. But what we've actually heard is that it wasn't that. She was apparently grabbed by a security guard as she was walking out and turned around and sort of slapped him or something because he's a little drunk. But she's got 4 years in jail.
Oh,
now there's another lawyer who posts on my page. He posts things that there's one guy, a new migrant, who went home and raped a 75-year-old woman in her house. And the judge said he's definitely going to do it again. He's shown no remorse. He has hatred for women. He's definitely going to do it again. He's got 5 years, and then he'll be out. So he gets 5 years for doing something that horrendous, and this woman gets 4 years. This is what we're seeing around the country, and it is all going the wrong way. And they literally are demonizing anyone who questions the government. And all we're guilty of, this is the same for Alison and you, Rosemary, all we're guilty of is asking questions, pertinent questions in a nonsense world. You know, that's really all you're guilty of. And look at you, Alison. You can't work in the system as an MSN reporter because you don't like being censored really by them, saying what you can and can't say. We have another friend who's the same, and yet here we are. And yet you are a spectacular reporter. And I want to keep saying that to can you put your Substack in the private chat so we can link it up? You must get behind this woman with her journalism. She does it while she's doing another work. I'm not going to say what that is, but she is so important at this time. Such an important voice.
Fabulous.
Yeah, that's Joel Gilmore. That's right. No, not Joel Gilmore. Joel Gilmore was a streamer. No, this is one of the NSM boys. And I'm not pro Nazis, but he hasn't done any other crime except offering an opinion which is different from others. To me, that is not a reason to be in jail. You know.
May I just speak to that point that you just made?
Sure.
This is quite the nub of it, because none of us support Nazis. But if you don't support free speech for the worst of all speech, then you don't support free speech at all. And that means free speech for Nazis. And there's a very important court case in the United States where they have a First Amendment to protect their free speech. And it's called the case of Brandenburg versus Ohio. And that was a case from memory. There were Ku Klux Klan marchers walking through a black neighborhood screaming the worst racial slurs you can possibly imagine. And in that judgment, the judge said, no, unless your speech is a direct and imminent threat, posing a direct and imminent threat of violence, incitement to violence, then, the worst thing in the world, you can shout it at the top of your voice, and that's what protects the freedom of speech of everybody else. So I don't agree with Nazis, but he shouldn't be in jail for saying something unless it's a very direct and imminent incitement to violence.
Well, we were brought up, I was brought up with the sticks and stones mentality that, names will never hurt you. And I lived in Adelaide as a child, and we had a lot of Aborigines there. And I was a great fan of the Sturt Football Club. Anyone from Adelaide who was there in the 60s would remember Roger Rigney, our fabulous little rover. Gosh, he was amazing. And every time he had a success on the footy field, he'd lift his jumper up and bare his little black chest, and we'd all cheer. And my best friend had a cat named after him because it was a little black cat. And, everything was so normal about it. We just thought they were all terrific, and there were quite a lot of Aborigines just generally in Adelaide at the time. And I don't think anyone thought twice about it, really. Then we had all the Greeks and Italians coming in, and it was, I don't know, that film, They're a Weird Mob, which I watched it again not that long ago. That was a fabulous film. I don't know why everyone is always looking to cower out in the shadows for fear of offending someone. And that's what's been accused of us having gone to a picnic near the Captain Cook cottage. How dare we wear, I wasn't wearing colonial clothes. You were the absolute epitome of clothes. But apparently this was going to incite huge amounts of offence for someone. And I thought, crikey, everyone is so pathetic that they get offended by something like that. I just refuse to cower at home thinking, gosh, I better stay home in case I say the wrong thing and look the wrong way and stand next to something that might be offensive. I mean, really, are we all going to live like that? It's just too silly for words.
Oh my goodness, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Last year we had a similar picnic and we had Captain Cook that time, and he was in Captain Cook outfit and I was a lovely colonial lady again. And that year, the Sydney City Council is just, I think, Australia's most racist council. They won't do one penny. They won't put the Australian flag on the street sign bunting, the street banners. They won't put the Australian flag or put any ads up for Australia Day, but they spent $2 million on Chinese New Year last year. So all the street banners were all the year of the snake, Chinese New Year. I complained and wrote a Substack on it and put in media requests to them, and I think it must have bitten them because this year no street banners at all. There wasn't the Australia flag, but then there wasn't Chinese New Year. It's kind of like, well, if you're going to criticise us for Chinese New Year, we won't have anything then.
I was in the town of Clare. Oh, sorry, Alison. Finish.
I was just going to say, I think everybody's heritage is important to them, and they're really demonising the heritage of the British colonists. Like, nobody claims they were perfect, but they did, with great difficulty, lay some very sturdy foundations for this country, and I think we should celebrate them. And it's not okay to just demonise it as Invasion Day, as Clover Moore, Sydney's mayor did. It's not okay to just keep saying that they were all genocide all the time. It's just Invasion Day. They did nothing good. That's actually quite racist in itself. Like, everybody's heritage needs to be celebrated. And so that's why I want to celebrate it. And I walked all the way to Double Bay afterwards, down William Street, up William Street, down New South Wales Road to Double Bay with my two big flags waving. And so many people were honking their horns. And then I went up and down Bondi just because I felt happy and I felt like it. And this lady at the end of the promenade of Bondi said, we're not allowed to fly our flags anymore on Australia Day. She was really upset. She's like, good on you, I'm so glad you're flying your flags. I don't feel like we're allowed to fly them on Australia Day anymore or celebrate Australia Day. And I go, no, it's rubbish, just celebrate. Just celebrate it. And people, when they see celebrating it, they're happy, they get enheartened, and wow, why don't we just go back to like it was when we all used to have fun on Australia Day and celebrate?
Yeah. I was in the town of Clare. I actually see this as a historic moment. We were in the town of Clare in South Australia. Not a single Australian flag did we see anywhere. We even took someone sent us a picture of a truck and said, oh, look, we've got a flag flying on the back of the truck. What they didn't realize, it was such a unique truck. We'd already taken a picture of the truck early that day. There was no flag on it. So we went through the town. Then we went through the supermarket. I had an Australian cap on that I got from you, Rosemary, at the Australia Day March. I don't know how I ended up with it, but I was wearing your cap. And so we're going through the supermarket, and Kelly was looking for anything, any flag, and a card to celebrate Australia Day, anything that was celebrating Australia Day. Nothing. They had cards for everything. They had everything for every other event except Australia Day. And then she found one tiny little flag on a bottom shelf right in the side where literally you couldn't see it. So I grabbed that and I stuck it in my cap. I did pay for it, everybody. And I walked around the supermarket with this little flag waving out of my head. And what it reminded me of, where how the people's reactions was the equivalent of when the mask mandates were in place and you went into a supermarket without one.
Oh, dear.
And you remember everyone would be masked, be like, they'd be like, oh, my God, someone's got their face out. That's what it was like. But all I had in my head was our flag, and everybody was agitated, except for one woman. I bless her. She was a worker there part-time. She came up and was chatting to us as her friend or the other work colleague was scanning our food, because I won't use the auto tellers. So she's scanning it. And I've said this before, but the woman scanning, you've never seen anyone scan it so fast. She was so agitated. She was...
Oh, it's mad.
She had to get me out. It was She was either terrified or this. And then we walked down the street. I sat outside a cafe, and the waiter's like this. A friend came and sat with us. She's whispering. And I'm thinking, this is an old Australian colonial town, and they are embarrassed by their heritage. They're ashamed of it. And And Australians, for some reason, the thing that annoyed me the most, I had blokes come by and they were going, like your cap. But they're whispering it. I felt like I was going, Happy Australia Day, mate. Like, what the hell?
This is recent because
And that's
I
only
mean,
one town. We passed other towns were exactly the same. But this is
Well-
I'm just pointing out that one town.
I have a very clear definition of what things were like when we first moved to Sydney, which we did in 2013. And I remember Australia Day in 2013, I saw endless cars. And I actually took photographs because I thought, these exuberant Sydney-siders with cars just bristling with flags. And I thought, how fabulous. I took photos and put them on Facebook. So it really is incredibly upsetting to think that in the last, I really think it's the last 5 years that we've been shamed about this. And I have coffee with some elderly friends. They are elderly. They're older than me, I'd like to add. But they're dear friends of mine. And they've been imbued with this fear.
I believe they just called you a bitch. They sat there and said, you bitch.
Yeah.
Calling us elderly.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. Anyway, yes, they were saying to me, I was telling them what happened. I mean, none of them are on the internet. They have no idea what they have no idea what I get up to with anything. They sit there innocently, not realizing that they're with this absolutely frightful old bag. But they were saying, oh, well, we've got to be very careful around the Captain Cook statue in case people get offended. And I just thought, honestly, how can people be so brainwashed now? And so that just, and they're older than us. You would have thought they would have known better. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in the mix. And
this is Alison Beveridge. This is Letters from Australia. That's her Substack there. I'm going to leave that up for a bit. I recommend you get on there and support her. Now, do you have, Alison, a backup for Substack? Because a lot of our followers on Substack can't get on because they need to verify their age and they're refusing to do it. Do you have a backup for that?
Yeah, I save them on Wayback Machine. I save them on Wayback. So Wayback Machine is the Internet Archive. So if you just find Wayback Machine and search the URL, the internet address, put it in the search bar, usually there's a saved archived copy there and that won't ask you.
Have you thought of going back to an old blog point, like your own blog? We've done that. So we go on Substack, but on Cafe Lockdown now we've got Closestack, where we post everything on Substack is on Closestack as well, and no age verification.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm very technological.
I'm happy to post your stuff there if you want to send it through with your links and stuff. Because, just send it through. I was going to nick it anyway because I loved it so much, but I thought I'd ask you. Now you're here to ask in person. But I think it's important.
I always want people to share it and save it. So if you want to, just take it all. Like, it's all free.
Okay, deal.
Free in public interest. So take it.
Yep.
Take it.
Done.
Take it if you like.
Done.
Yeah.
I got your permission to steal your work. Done.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. Well, may I just tell you something? Because Rosie made me think of this when she was saying about Captain Cook's statue. When I saw those people using heavy machinery to pull down a statue in Melbourne or a monument earlier, just before Australia Day and the week before Australia Day, like this attacking of statues has got to stop as well, because people who tear down statues, what they really want to do is tear down people, and it's really awful. It's an awful thing to do. And I was so worried that I actually went to Captain Cook's statue and I took out my camp chair and I sat there from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. because I was just worried that people would come and vandalise it, and I wanted to have my picnic and I didn't want to be really upset and see vandalism on it when we had our picnic. So I sat there in my camp chair and I made friends with the security guard. I think his name's Tyler. Anyway.
Gosh, well done.
Your sound is a little bad, Alison. I think what it is your microphone. I think, the closer you are to the microphone, the better. And you look great, so that's fine. Yeah.
Steve, that was so brave of you to sit there during the nighttime like that. I mean, that really was brave.
You know whose book I was reading? Judy Wilyman. Judy Wilyman is an Aboriginal anti-vaxxer. I was reading her book and I was really actually surprised. It was way more academic than I thought it would be and way more evidence-based. And she was talking about a lot of the stuff that happened in COVID, before COVID, all about the corruption of the corporations seeping in and influencing policy.
Big shout out to Judy Welliman. We did an interview with her on the Vax bus, so that the long interview will come out soon. She's absolutely fantastic lady. I mean, I'm a newcomer compared to these unbelievably long-serving soldiers trying to save humanity. They've been doing it for 30 years. So hat tip to Meryl Dorey, Anita, Judy Welliman, all the heroes. Yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing about what's happening with the vaccines now is so many people are waking up. I mean, the latest one I heard was on Joe Rogan. He had some doctor or scientist on, and she was going that consumption, TB, actually came from the smallpox vaccine. And you realize that we've been stuck in this thing for years of like almost well over 100 years of them
200.
selling us this because, 200 because it's a great product. But I don't know. The most interesting interview I did was when Karatha, I should put it up. It was an 82-year-old crisis accountant. Now, he woke up during COVID, and what he said was he was an accountant that they'd send into businesses to either save them or liquidate them. He'd make the choice. And he'd go through the books and say, you've got a choice, or, you got to hope you don't. And he said he looked at not the books, but he looked at the business model of vaccines. And what he said was, join us, Paul. What he said was, it is a perfect business model. You can't get sued. Everyone has to take it. and if anything goes wrong, tough luck. He said it is an absolute perfect business model, which is why I think they went to 72 for the kids in America. I don't know how much it is here, but it's money for jam.
Well,
And
the other thing is,
I think the mRNA thing, what they love about mRNA is the one flaw in their business plan was it would take 10 or 20 years to develop a vaccine. Now, remember when they said, oh, it's okay if another variant hits, we'll just adjust it a bit. Like Harry Potter, we'll take a little bit of hemlock, a little bit of nanoparticles, a little bit of graphene oxide. How they go?
The frog's burn and devil's eye. Well, also the other fabulous thing is, like Macbeth's pot. The other fabulous thing is that all the injuries they cause, they've got a pill or a drug for. But this has gone on since the late 1700s. George III, the King George III, lost two of his youngest children to the smallpox vaccination. And the way they used to do it, I mean, the deaths from smallpox actually, when anyone says to you, oh, look at the vaccine, it saved people from smallpox. Smallpox was a very mild disease. The problem was that the treatment that they gave you when you got smallpox was they stuck you in a really hot room under a heap of blankets, and in between boiling you alive in an airless room, they'd come and take your blood to get rid of whatever evil humours they thought you might have in you. So by the time they'd boiled you, not washed you, and not given you any water, they thought that the dry treatment was the go. So there you are, lying in bed under 10 blankets in an airless room, being dehydrated, and they wondered why you died. And those that survived that treatment were the ones who were the poorest families, who the children just sort of sat in their bedrooms for a couple of days and had fresh air and were able to drink whatever they wanted. But unfortunately, even those poor children lived in such unhygienic circumstances that there were a lot of them that died anyway. Just as soon as they got anything, they died. But all these childhood diseases, measles being one of them, they like to treat with mercury. They thought mercury was the universal panacea. So it's very easy to say, look at all the deaths these things caused, but when you look at what they were doing to people, they had no idea. So George III lost two of his kids to the vaccination. They poked a whole lot of pus into an open cut on them, and colour me surprised they died. So there you go.
That's very interesting. May I add to that about the smallpox vaccine? Because this is top of my mind. I like to do something before Australia Day, which I did last year and this year, is go down to the very bottom of the State Library of New South Wales, where you can get on microfilm the earliest newspapers of the colony. And they go from about 1803 onwards. So the colony was only 15 years old. So before even the colony was 21 years old, I came across a really interesting little article. And it was basically they tried to inoculate someone. They say cowpox. They're trying to inoculate someone, I think, with the cowpox virus to vaccinate against smallpox, and it didn't work. And the thing said, all right, we tried, but unfortunately it didn't work. And it's interesting because, like you said, before that's why we have the word vaccine from the word vacca, which means cow in Latin, and it comes from the time when Edward Jenner scratched some live cowpox into a little kid's arm to try to give him a mild case of cowpox, which wasn't a threat to you but could provide immunity against smallpox. But before Edward Jenner did that, in the early 18th century, Lady Mary Wortley Montagu was desperate to find inoculation against smallpox because her own face was covered in pox, and she was very upset about it. And they were stationed in the Ottoman Empire, and for centuries, the Chinese, the Indians, and all sorts of cultures all around the world, what they were doing was they were getting pus from somebody who had a milder case of smallpox and then scratching it into the arm of little kids because they felt like it was a milder illness if you got it when you were a child. So they would, and it was called variolation. So it's basically the equivalent of vaccination, but called variolation because it's not made from a cow. It was made from live pus from somebody with smallpox. So that's what they were doing for that century, and that's why maybe it was a milder illness, and why also when the first fleet came to Sydney, the very next year there was a massive outbreak of smallpox that wiped out loads of unfortunate Aboriginal people, and they still to this day don't know how they got the smallpox. The early colonists were horrified. They blamed the French. The French were anchored in Botany Bay at that time, La Perouse, and one of their number died. But the early British colonists blamed it on the French because they didn't want to be responsible for outbreak. But one thing has come to light, which is the ship's doctor had brought out a glass jar of variolous material, which is smallpox material, intending to use it on children born in the colony to ward off smallpox. And although there's no evidence of this, I think it's very interesting to note that the early colonists in 1788, they weren't trying to genocide Aboriginal people at all. They were trying to make friends, learn how to communicate, learn what foods are good and bad, get the friendship of the lands around, find someone to negotiate with, and basically set up their colony. And they were trying to trade a lot with the Aboriginal people and help them in order to win their favour. And I don't think it's beyond the bounds of possibility that the ship's doctor might have tried to variolate some of the Aboriginal children in order to help them, like not to try to infect them and wipe them all out, but because he thought it was a good deed and that he was helping them. And it's quite possible if he did that, they all got it. So,
well, anecdotally, Aboriginals don't cope well with vaccination. I have a very close friend who's worked a lot with Aborigines, and the difficulties that we witness with a lot of the young Aboriginals, she attributes to the fact that they've been so heavily vaccinated. Aboriginal children get 47 vaccinations before they're 4, whereas white children get 43. And apparently genetically Aboriginal children can't tolerate. I mean, we know in America they've done, they do know, and it has been in a trial and proven to be the case, that black children, particularly little black boys, tolerate, become autistic much more commonly than other children. So one can assume that Aborigines also have this same genetic makeup. And I think that's why so many are undiagnosed ADHD or perhaps on the spectrum. And we have difficulties with young Aboriginal kids behaving badly because they're undiagnosed. I mean, that's a conclusion I've come to from hearing so much from this dear friend of mine who's worked a lot with them. Shocking. And 47 injections before they're 4. When they're 18 months, they get 12. Can you imagine? 12 pumped into them. Oh, it just makes my blood cold.
I'd be a bit cautious about. I'd want to look into every single one, and because every single vaccination product is different, so they all have to be evaluated individually. Like, what the hell is in this one? What is in that one? And I'd be cautious as well from news from America, because Black Americans' origins are in Africa, whereas Aboriginal people were isolated here for a long time. I think from memory their genotype is a bit different. But you are right in that. I don't think I've looked into it now, and in fact they haven't done double-blind, placebo-controlled safety studies on any of the vaccines.
That's known now. The other thing they haven't done is also to test how they all work together. I mean, one vaccine alone might not do damage, but you give 12, and they've done no studies on how 12 given at once. act in the
and
body.
I mean, for heaven's sake, they're loading up the schedule for little kids with a bunch of vaccines that little kids don't need. I mean, what is the rationale to give a 4-hour-old baby a hepatitis B shot? Can someone explain that to me? Because
what we did hear in an interview a few years ago, I don't know if you heard that one, Rosemary. What we heard, someone told us that initially the Hep B was for Asian people that have a lot of hepatitis in their community and for sex workers. And the sex workers refused to take it.
Right.
And so they just thought, screw it, let's just give it to everyone.
Well,
So they know that the babies aren't going, I mean, it's not like your 4-year-old is going to go, quick, give me the Hep B vaccine because I'm going to go out and do some intravenous drugs and shoot up some drugs and then might have sex with some random strangers, while I'm still in my nappy. I mean, it's ridiculous. And yet they do it. But the one thing that I find is not so much they're pushing it onto us, but when I came to Australia at 5, it'll sound funny, but it's true. I came from England and I wasn't circumcised, and all the boys here were circumcised, and no one knew why. They came up, it helps it stay clean. But they didn't. They did it because everyone else did it. You just did it. You put the child through this trauma to just be a part of society. So I felt I was out of society. I had to get naked in the change room or anything like this. They'd see I had a leather jacket. But this goes on in Australia a lot. And so I think a lot of people vaccinate their children, not because they think it's good for them or they're scared it's bad for them. It's that they don't want to be different from the herd.
Absolutely.
They're terrified of being ostracized. They're so terrified they're willing to sacrifice or they're willing to risk the health of their infant just to be on the right side of what they think is the right side of history. That's what I say.
I know of people who've said, oh, I'm vaccinating my children because then they'll be invited to parties. I don't want them left out. But I can't tell you how many, I mean, that just makes my blood run cold too. I just can't imagine doing that, thinking, oh, look, I better vaccinate them so that they can go to a birthday party. But I can't tell you how often I'm approached by people of my age who say, my daughter or my son is having a baby and they are determined to vaccinate it, and it doesn't matter what I say, they are not going to change their mind. Can you help me? And I always say, give them my number. I'll tell them what's happened in my own family. I'll tell them that Hep B, which is given to them within hours of birth, has more aluminium in it than is recommended for a 300-pound man. And your newborn child has no protection with his blood or her blood-brain barrier. So one thing you can be absolutely sure of is that that amount of aluminium, which is more than dangerous for a 300-pound man, could very likely go straight through to your baby's brain. And you might have had the baby and he's latching on and you're feeding him. They take him away, they jab him, and suddenly you get a different child back. And that happens.
That's the stories we hear.
That happens.
That's the stories we hear all the time. Yeah.
Alison,
were you going to say something?
Yeah, it reminds me as well that what I was reading in Judy Weilerman's book, where she was charting the history of the rise of coercive vaccination and when the government started giving you payments and tax benefits, but only if you had completed the vaccination schedule.
That's right.
And then mandating it for jobs in healthcare, for example, and mandating it here. There.
They still do it now. I talk to single mothers who are struggling, who say they constantly get emails. If you'll just vaccinate your child, you'll get this much money. We'll give you this much money. Just jab the child, this much money. And that's what they do now. They're determined to get it into people. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I get so excited. You'll have to shut me up.
That's all right, Rosemary. Go ahead. We should put you with Richard. That'd be bang, bang.
I also, the other really awful thing is I've met several families, well, mothers who have fought tooth and nail to maintain an unvaccinated status for their children, and they've been supported by their husbands until the moment the marriage fails. And then the father will approach Human Services and say, my wife's an anti-vaxxer. I want the children. I'll vaccinate them. I'll keep them with me. I'll get the consideration for childcare from the government, and I'll get all the benefits of having children, whatever they currently are. And my wife's out in the cold because she's an anti-vaxxer. It's used as a weapon against women who've protected their children from vaccination. and the trauma that causes for those mothers. I can't tell you. I've interviewed several of those mothers,
It goes
knowing
the same
that
way. I've interviewed men that do the other thing. There's a very famous freedom fighter who, I won't say his name, but he was begging his wife to look at the videos he was seeing before she took it. And finally, she sat down and she looked at them. After she looked at them, she said, okay, I see that you're right. I get it. But I'm so small. They're so big. I'm going to do what they tell me. And she took the kids, and she was given the kids, even though the courts gave her full custody because she was seen as a more responsible parent because she was going to jab them. And he lost everything. And so it happens both ways. I don't think it's this. Someone is here, though, is just saying, because we're getting a bit heavy. And I do feel that we keep hitting people with facts. They've got so many facts they're exhausted by it. So I think we have to wrap facts in the jam of humor. And so they're saying, do you know any good jokes? But I'd like to say I heard a great joke last night. I thought it was one of the best jokes I'd heard in ages. And it was a young guy. He's about 35. And he was saying, I had to watch Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which was with Sidney Poitier, about, a black man who'd got with a guy's daughter, and now he was coming to the house to meet the parents. And he was going, oh, my God, that is so old-fashioned. It's 2026 now. My daughter is a black man.
Oh, I like that one. Oh, wasn't
I can't remember the
Poitier
comedian's name, but my God, I laughed at that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sidney Poitier.
And I think we should. I think we have to, even though we're doing what we're doing, I'll never forget this young girl, and everyone who knows me is going to be bored with this. But it was when I was doing, I think I'd just done remember with the violin player, where he played the violin with the Australian anthem without any. Yeah. So I'd arranged that. I produced that, and I got him up. I said, look, I'll get you on stage. I'll get everyone to shut up. And I'll say, as a protest, we won't sing the words because they're a lie. And so everyone just stay silent and hold up your phones and record it. So it worked. It was just one of the things that works well. After that, this young girl approached me, covered in tattoos, and she said, I'm a hermit. And if a hermit comes out of their cave and starts talking, you have to listen. And I need to tell you, you have a moral obligation not to sell hopelessness, no matter how tight its grip. And that has been the foundation of all my work. That I think that's right. We can't sell any more fear and hopelessness and this, and we have to balance it. And I think what you girls were doing when you first came on was saying you don't want this young man arrested.
No.
The hurdy words, you got over it. As you said, Alison, I think that's hope. This is it. He was absolutely out. He needed a good slapping. He needed a bigger guy to come up, slap him around the ear and go, you're talking to women, pull your head in or F off. That's what he needed. And it may be because he doesn't have someone to do that. He is that. But the thing is, he doesn't need the state coming down on him. He doesn't need his life destroyed by going to jail. He just needs men, like males, grandfathers, fathers going, that's unacceptable. And they call it intergenerational male learning and stuff like this. And so, but I think the fact that you guys aren't prosecuting him, you just happen to take the video, I think that's hope. We can deal with this ourselves. We don't need the politicians in our back pocket looking after us. We can handle it.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Yes, I totally agree, 100%. And also, there's one thing, like, I wouldn't, if only, like, you can protest any day, but maybe if March for Australia just celebrated Australia Day instead and just had fun with it, and bloody well dress up as colonials if you want. Like, just do it. It's a lot of fun. Anyway,
just have fun, man.
You've got to find the joy in it. Find the joy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yourself, Rosemary, how would you, if you're going to take this out with hope? I know you see a lot of sadness, and we have to worry that we get PTSD from the amount of sad stories we hear. I hear them every day. But and we can't sell false hope, but we have to sell real hope. And another thing that we do that has real hope is the connection we have.
Yeah.
If we're in our community, we have this incredible connection. That's hope. I believe we glow. So
Look,
you glow like one of those MCG spotlights that's down on the thing. That's how I see you, Rosemary. You really glow. They can see you from afar. What's that light in the distance? That's Rosemary Marshall.
it's a bit hot
So,
here. It's quite a hot night.
and you're
So
doing it because you just have the courage to say what you want and say. But how would you offer hope to the community?
Well, I get tremendous pleasure in meeting people, talking with people, and hearing their stories, even though they're sad. And I do feel hopeful. I think we've got so many wonderful people working to heal them. I'm very hopeful that a lot of the people I meet do seem to manage their problems. I mean, obviously there is a cohort of people who are very, very severely injured and they're not getting any better. But I think we've learned a lot of lessons over the last 5 years. We've met a lot of great people. I personally have maintained and rectified friendships which I thought I'd lost, and that gives me a lot of hope. I think young people now are realising what is at stake, and I think there are a lot of young people rising up through the ranks who are not like this young man, who have seen what's going on and are brave enough to address it. No, I'm hopeful. I don't feel defeated. And as far as any brickbats thrown my way, it's absolutely lovely being my age and being inert and unmoved by any kind of insults. And I do get them, and not so many as I used to, but they're quite thin on the ground now. And when they come up, you know, I get the odd drawing that has me with an extremely wrinkly neck. And I say, look, I like the other one better. You know, I didn't have so much grey hair in the other one. You know, really, they do look pretty childish, a lot of the people who are still trying to kind of muscle their way to the top of the pile, thinking that they know more than anyone else. I mean, we're all learning. I hope I'm learning, and I certainly want to keep doing what I'm doing. Back at Forest on Saturday, plan to do it every week, as long as it's not too
What at DY? Where are you going to be this Saturday?
Yeah, this Saturday. I saw Paul. We've missed you, Paul. I'm glad you're coming back. Yeah, we have a great crew, absolutely fantastic group of people, and we go off and have a drink or a coffee afterwards. You know, there's a tremendous amount of good that comes of it. And over Christmas, when we did have a bit of a break, I went away and people were saying, oh, we won't wait till January, will we, until we get back together again. So we actually brought it forward by 2 weeks. I thought, oh, everyone's had enough of a break. We're hanging out to see each other. So, you know, there is a lot of positive that's come out of it. And the people on our side of the movement are interesting, proactive, broad-minded. And I think all of us are able to accept different opinions, much more so than the people who are still hoping that Albo's looking after them. I think that's probably the note I'll end on, that I don't think Albo's doing much of a job of it. Come and join us and take a long look at all these lunatics running us, and let's see if we can do something better, really.
He's like a puppet where the person holding it with the hand up his ass is like completely stoned and watching TV or something, and just like, what, you know? Because I thought he was at something the other day. He had to give the 6 points, and someone said, "What are the 5 points?" Someone said, "What are the 5 points?" He had no idea. He had no idea. He hadn't read the memo. Alison, take us out with some hope. Now, I have to say, Alison, I am so happy that you're finally in the cafe. I am a huge fan of yours, and I finally got you here. You were coming on in a few weeks with John Stapleton, but I think that's been postponed. But I'm so happy to know you've come on. I'm a huge fan of yours.
You're a treasure.
I think you're an incredible brain and an incredible voice. So take us out with some hope, and then I'm going to play a song to finish.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you. I'm quite camera shy. I don't normally try to go on anywhere, but here's some good hope. They wouldn't have to convince us and try to control the message if our actions didn't matter. So it matters. And, you know, actually, we just need to feel like we have the ability to be able to have some input into what's going on. And you can. And I know sometimes people feel like their voice is not being heard, but if you get engaged and you make submissions to parliamentary inquiries, and quite often a lot of the things in our democracy are done not through the voting at the ballot box. They're done through these parliamentary inquiries, and they're done through civil organisations. And there are a lot of them, these little like, for example, little civil rights organisations. We have one called New South Wales Council for Civil Liberties. And sometimes these ones get taken over by people who have agendas, and then they don't do their job. But if we can join sometimes those groups and get in there and sort of, try to get them to do what they're supposed to be doing, that will make a big difference as well. So you can make a difference. Your voice matters. And look what you guys have done. I mean, holy moly, Rosie with the Forest of the Fallen, what she has done, and what you have done, Michael, from going around the country and giving people a voice, just letting them have a say, just give those people a voice. So anyway, you're all powerful. Everybody listening to this is powerful. You have the power. Share, the information that you need to share from independent media, and, don't feel like you can't change things, because you can.
You can. Well, that's a great segue. So I'm going out with a song that I think it ends up by 3 or 4 million views, and it's gone further. It's the most successful post of mine from the last year or the last 12 months. So we're going out with that. And I know there's a lot of controversy about it, but I'm still moved by the loss of this man. And I felt like a great light went out. And so I'm going to go out with this song. But lovely to have you on. I will have you on again. And now I'm going to interview this wonderful man here next to me, and Phil. But I'm going to interview him separately as a separate interview, because he's got a great voice. And today he saved our bacon with the bus, and that's going to be part of his interview. It's called the Broken Banjo, and so that's it. Thanks for coming on. I see you all. Rosemary, just don't stop being you. Make them stop you. Don't you let stop you. Alison, once again, it's a joy to have you on. Simply.
Thank you so much for having me.
And this song is called A Song for Charlie. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I wrote this on the day of his death.
It was raining last night. I could hear it dancing on the roof. I fell asleep listening to the beauty of rain. But when I woke, you were gone. Someone had used their hate to take you away. And so the rain of last night is now raining inside of me. I think the angels just might be standing up to welcome you home, as we remain here fighting in the trench that just grew colder. But despite the shot, I know you're not dead. Instead, you're leaving light could become our new dawn. I wonder if when your mother first held you, as all the love you brought was a dawn in her eyes. Did if she ever sensed then that a warrior was here, with a tongue for a sword and the armor of truth? For in a darkening world that's being turned upside down, you were a single man that rose until we could see you from here. How many roads must a man walk down before we call him a man? Well, I'm on your road, to try and emulate you by constructing a sign that reads Charlie Kirk, a man passed this way.